Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge of allegiance. If you please join me. The pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we need to approve the agenda, so I will entertain a motion to do that.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
We move the second that we approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion is carried. And next we have public comment, and we have, thank you. And we do have one person that has signed up, Mr. Don Young. Would you
Just one, huh?
please come forward?
No pressure. All right. Where would you like?
You're going to be the best.
I want to make sure I got plenty of room here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I guarantee you, you're going to be number one.
Number one. Well, thank you. All right. Well, I guess you've got my name already. Before I get started, Tom, I really appreciate the phone call. You got back to me and you got right on the spot and took time to answer some questions and so forth. So I could tell you, I really appreciate that.
And I actually didn't hear your name. I'm sorry.
Don
sorry.
Young, I'm sorry.
Don Young. Perfect.
You were
Thank you.
you were too close. Okay. So for you, of those who don't know, I have a son who's attending Sandpoint Middle School. And first of all, I take the opportunity to just thank the board for just allowing me to speak and mostly to get the schools back open. You know, a lot of schools are closed, so I commend you for that. I really want to say thank you for that. What I would like to speak on is face masks. My family has a long history with breathing issues, and my grandfather lost his life fighting for his breath from asthma and died before I was even born. I've lost two cousins to cystic fibrosis at a very young age. Just recently, two of my cousins who live in Twin Falls, Idaho, husband and wife, were diagnosed with the China virus, who work in the hospital there. I haven't had any contact, so please don't worry about that. One of them felt like they got a bad cold. The other one never got any symptoms whatsoever. And they also have lots of kids. None of the kids have gotten any virus. They all live in the same household, okay? So that's important. My cousin who had gotten the virus, he just felt like he had a bad cold. So not really a big deal there. My son has had asthma all his life. He uses a breathing machine at times. I have watched him struggle just to breathe. As an infant, literally scared the hell out of me. I'm watching his throat collapse in, trying to fight for air. And as a parent, that's really devastating to watch something like this go on. And I still watch it time to time. It's a whole lot better than it used to be. But it's still something that he really suffers from, okay? Just so you know, I'm a single parent. I work as a contractor. This is not an easy thing for me to come in and do this, sit down and write all this out because I'm working. Recently gone through a divorce, trying to take care of my son. And every day he comes home from school and tells me about how hard it is to wear this face mask. So it's important to me that I sit here and do this, okay? That's something I want to do, trust me. So what I want to do is let you know that I'm not against face masks. I wear face masks as a profession. As a contractor, I can't tell you, I've sanded, I've varnished, I've done all those things. And let me tell you, when I put a face mask on and I sit there and I do drywall dust, which is a whole lot bigger than the particles, that stuff comes in, okay? And just recently cutting cement board, wore a face mask because it's dangerous. And those are the proper times to use a face mask. And even then, I can feel that stuff coming in at that particular point in time. Okay, and then after I'm done with that, because my glasses fog up, you got to take that thing off because you can only leave it on for so long. So I'm not opposed for face masks if they're used for the proper thing. Okay, so here's just some of the facts. about some of the face masks, which probably some of you know, but I'll just go through just a few of them. The common face mask filters out 1.25 microns. The China virus is 0.003. I know we can argue some about, it's got droplets on there and all that kind of stuff that makes it bigger. I get all that. But you got to know that you're also touching that face mask all the time. If you look on the news and you watch the people on news, I won't name her name, but they're constantly adjusting this thing, and let me tell you, you're going to get it, if that's the case, if that really is going to do that much good with that, okay? Survival rate from 0 to 19 is 99.97% chance of surviving this virus. Kids are not getting this virus. And I don't gamble, but boy, if I did, if the slot machine said I had that kind of odds, I tell you what, I'd be pumping my money in that thing all day long, if that was the odds of winning. And I had that little odds of losing. And that's what we're talking about. There's not one kid that's died from this. Nobody in Sandpoint has died from this. And so on. More people have died from the flu this year. I don't see us going around and making all these indications about the flu and what we're going to do about the flu every single year. Pretty interesting. Some more deaths from flu. Have you noticed that the death rate for the virus keeps going on and on and on? There's a flu season, isn't there? We stopped the flu season, but we have never stopped this. Every time I looked in the news, which I try not to, these numbers keep going up and up. We never stopped the season. So kind of interesting that this season just kind of runs on and on and on. Okay. Wearing your face mask, like I said already, makes you touch your face a lot. We are diverting. One of my concerns is because I've got people, and I told you about how many people are sick in my family. We're diverting a vast amount of resources for this. I'm watching the schools and the division in the schools of these plexiglass things and mandatory face masks and all stuff. I got to tell you, there's people who truly need this money, and we're wasting it on people who really need the money. Okay? Not everybody needs a face mask. Okay? And so now the World Health Organization is now telling us that we shouldn't shut down the economy. But just not too long ago, we got to shut down the economy. We got to flatten the curve. We've done all these things. And now it's always more. It's always more. It feels like the 9/11 thing, we're never going to be able to stop taking our shoes off. Got to always go through these airport checks. I just don't get that. There's so many more reasons. I'm just trying to make some key points here. This is not a time I want to make political statements. We're not left, not right, not trying to go down that. We're Americans, okay? And we need to come together as Americans. And I think we're really doing a disservice to our kids when we sit there and we are creating a fear tactic in these kids. What happens to some of the famous people saying that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself? We're not teaching our kids that. We're teaching our kids about how to fear this and how to be worried about it and all this stuff. And I heard from the school district up above, which got into our school district, about, oh my gosh, 2 of them up there got it. That's not helpful. We don't go around and talk about how many people died in a car accident yesterday, or how many people got AIDS, or how many people got flu, or any of these type of things. But yet we're doing this to our kids. We're not teaching them to be leaders. We're teaching them to be scared and to retract, and that's not what America is about. I don't think the guys on the shores of Normandy sat there and said, oh my gosh, we're going to lose thousands here. We better, back off. No, they went out and they charged and they took the fight. And that's what you got to do, okay? What I'd like to say to the board here is, just for a second, just imagine whether you're for face mask or you're not for face mask, but just pretend we impose it. You do the opposite of what you don't like. And now all of a sudden we change the rule around and we make it to you can't wear a face mask. And yet you want to wear a face mask. How would you feel about it then? Okay? So, do we really want our freedoms taken away like that? Someday you might feel like your kid may just need to decide against your very core belief that you, for your kid, you know what's right. And I think we all know what's right for our own kids. Not some board, not some other doctors, not some guy in a white lab coat, but you know what's important for your kids. I know what's important for my kids. I don't want my son to die. I definitely don't want him to die. But I want him to live free. Yeah, I don't want him to be done and be, pampered down like that. So what I've got to say is that, if God gives us free will, why can't you guys give us free will? Okay? We have free will to decide good, bad, evil, what we're going to say, and we suffer from those consequences, whatever they are. And that's how we learn. I've learned from my greatest mistakes in life, not because somebody dictated to me of what I've got to do. Okay? Free will is important. So, like I said, it's just who we are as Americans. And this is not the way to handle it. If you want to wear a face mask, that's fine. And another thing is when you wear a face mask for the people who are sick, it gives us an identity to know you're sick and I need to stay away from you. We need to distance, okay? And so that we don't get involved. What happened to Mom Knows Best and says, wash your hands and stay home from being sick. I'm not hearing any of those things in the school being taught. I didn't even know we were going to make face masks. When I got the letter coming up back to school, I'm like, woohoo, we're back at school. See anywhere in the brochure? Maybe I missed it, and maybe it's my fault, but I didn't see where this was a mandatory thing. In fact, when I checked him into school, neither one of us went in with face masks. I was, no idea. But now I kind of feel blindsided that, all of a sudden he's got to go to school, he's got to wear a face mask. I mean, he can't get out of the hallway without a face mask on. If he pulls it down below his nose, he's in trouble. If he tells him he can't breathe, he's in trouble. Well, he has a problem breathing. And now you're saying that, talking with the principal, which, wonderful man, he's been very supportive and all that stuff, and I understand he doesn't make the rules. You guys make the rules. But I got to go get a doctor's note. My gosh, it's hard to make this meeting. 5 o'clock? Most people are just getting off of work right now. I don't have time to come down and do this kind of thing. Now I got to pay for a doctor's visit to go and prove that my son has to not wear a face mask just because he has a hard time breathing. I think that's just really highly unfair. And so I'm asking you as a board to please reconsider. It should be to where the parent says if they don't want to wear a face mask, if the parent signs off and is willing for the responsibility for that, it shouldn't happen. That's all I'm asking for, some common sense. Give us free will, please. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay, let's move on. Next we have information item reports. First one is administration and staff introduction and recognition.
Yeah.
Superintendent Albertson.
Yes, I'd like to take this time, as always to the board, to introduce you to a staff member to recognize who's been doing some great things and also happens to be new to her position, and that's Megan Hoffmeister. So I would invite Megan to come up and introduce herself to you so you know her role. She was hired as an instructional coach. And she has taken on the role of our online elementary school through IDLA. So she's been very instrumental in helping parents be able to guide that online school. And she is doing a phenomenal job about that. So anyway, I just want to recognize you for your hard work, but I think it's also a great time for the board to get to know you a little bit more and your background. So thanks, Megan.
Yeah, thank you. So I was born and raised in Bonner County. I went to all Lake Bonner School District schools, and I am a certified English teacher, and I got certified and then had babies. So I stayed home, but I wasn't ready to be out of the classroom, and so I started teaching online through IDLA. And I taught with them for 5 years as a part-time teacher. And then I moved into a full-time position with Inspire Connections Academy, which is just a public charter school that's online in Idaho. And so my role with them as a full-time teacher was as an elementary master teacher and then also a language arts interventionist. So I worked with families who were, some of them had chosen this because it worked well for their family to have students online, and others were coming because maybe their student wasn't a good fit in a face-to-face school. So helping them transition to online learning, supporting families as they supported their students as kind of that primary learning coach, which is a role that most families weren't, before the spring of 2020, weren't prepared for. So I have a lot of experience in just kind of supporting families through that transition, and then also kind of working with teachers to help, with the differentiation for students online. So with IDLA, it's brand new to have an elementary course, their cohort. So our elementary cohort right now is about 113 students in grades K through 6. And so we have students primarily whose families or who themselves have some sort of medical diagnosis that maybe prohibits them from being in school. Some of them have grandmas who are going through chemo and they want to keep students home so that everybody's safe and can still see grandma. Probably another 15% were worried about their students wearing masks all day or having to socially distance on the playground, so they chose to do it. And then another maybe 10%, they just didn't tell me why. So with 113 students, we have really good attendance. We have about 5 who are pushing our attendance boundaries, but I'm really tracking them closely. But everybody else is doing a great job of getting their students to the live sessions and working on the aspects that are not synchronous, so they're doing them on their own with their students. So that has been really interesting. It's been a lot of contact with families via email, via phone. So I think we're in week 4, and it's really ramped up, and families seem to be doing well. So anyway.
What's the range of classes that you have IDLA from? Is it all elementary schools?
I do. So I have K through 6.
K
Yep.
through 6.
Yep. And the biggest number of students are at 2nd grade. Yep. Yep. So yeah.
What curriculum do you use? Do you use IDLA? Do you use some of your own materials?
Nope,
Other online materials?
IDLA is an Idaho State school, so it's all Idaho content standard based. So they have the teachers each day. The way they're tracking attendance is that students are coming to a live session and teachers are giving, a lesson just like they would in the classroom, and then they have kind of like seat work is what it's called. So they're doing that on the side after that live session or before, depending on when it fits in their schedule. So it's all Idaho content
You say
standards.
live session, these are recorded.
They're not. They're live. They're via like.
You have to get on at 9 a.m. because
Yep.
that's when your teacher's in
Exactly,
the
that's
classroom.
when your teacher's
Yeah.
there. And all of our Lake Conroe School District students are in a cohort with other Lake Conroe School District students.
Oh,
So
nice.
if we have students that are at Sagal and are in 2nd grade, they're gonna see their little classmates who are also at Sagal, that were at Sagal last year and will probably be at Sagal again next year. But they're in the same one, and so they can have that video, just that recognition of, oh, there's my friend, or somebody new from the playground.
So Gary, just to clarify, IDLA has their separate certified teachers. Megan is not the teacher.
She's our coordinator.
Through part of her job as instructional coach is to help assist and guide parents through this new venture, getting them registered, just understanding the online platform. And I know that the teachers could do that, but we felt like we wanted to give parents just a little more assistance than just saying, oh, here's IDLA, go figure it out on your own. And so I do have to say, Megan's energy, positivity has just come over and over from the parents, so appreciative of the assistance that she's given. So I feel like it's customer service on our part to help guide them during these difficult times, trying to give parents as many choices as possible of how they want to choose education.
You like have an hour for 1st grade, hour for 2nd grade, and so on? Is that
So
how
the teachers are throughout the state of Idaho. So the teachers, they have them kind of cohorted. So there's a kindergarten teacher, and she teaches all the kindergarten students. And then there's like a 1-2 teacher, and she teaches the 1st and 2nd grade.
So there's others.
So there's So for families with more than 1 or 2 students, it can get kind of sticky if they don't have devices. But we've been providing devices to families that need them. And so they can have students on at the same time. So you might have a kindergartner who's in their little live class for about a half hour, and then a 6th grader who's on for about 45 minutes because they can sit still for longer. So those little kindergartners, it's a lot of activities and a lot of up and down and singing, just like it would be in their classrooms, whereas the 6th graders are going more in depth with the content.
And I do have to say then, the other part of Megan's job is she's also assisting our classroom teachers, the face-to-face, with their learning management systems, Google Classroom. So with her experience, it's great for her to assist those teachers with that platform so when students are out sick, then they can go into the learning management system. So we've been just, I can't say thank you enough.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to
Amanda.
meet you.
Here's
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Wanted to clap.
You can clap.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have an update of COVID-19 by our superintendent.
Yeah, so I think yesterday was Columbus Day, so I did not get an update from Panhandle Health, but I do want to share a few things that I've asked our nursing staff to do, and you have this documentation. So we are really tracking the COVID cases that we are having in our school system here locally. And I know when we go on to the health district's website, you can go by county, but our county includes West Bonner, and I've asked whether they could do it by zip code, and so far we haven't had it by zip code. So I just wanted to be transparent and just kind of let you know through our nursing staff of the positive cases here. So total in the district up to this point has been 13. And I don't need to sit here and read this chart to you, but this kind of gives you an idea of where we are. Other would be staff members that are in a different department, whether it be the maintenance department, transportation department, etc. So any questions? And again, I want to thank our nursing staff for putting this information together. We'll keep this updated for you. And I love it when there's no news to report, because that's what we want.
Yeah.
So.
This is a great format
Yeah, this is good.
for just kind of keeping
Well,
track.
I felt like I can go through all the Panhandle Health District's slides and
Yeah.
show you a few things, but I think this is maybe
A
a little
snapshot,
more meaningful.
yeah. Mhm.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Very good. Any questions
Yeah.
from the board, Jared?
Any analysis? I mean, you study this all day long. Do you see any pattern here?
Being a statistics teacher, I don't think the data set's large enough to really draw any conclusions from this. I mean, I would hate to do that. I mean, really, I mean.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
you know, board chair, there's a couple people in the audience that are raising their hand, that this is a communication with the board. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Can I just know what the total population of the school district is?
3,500 right now, just under that. And I think I shared that with the board. Previously, we're at about, usually around 3,800. So we're down about 300 students. So, but I do want to then go into a few other meaningful, one of the metrics that you use as a board to whether or not we get to move into a green plan is this 7-day moving average. And I'm frustrated, sorry, I'm just gonna put it out there, that I can't find the percent, an up-to-date percent testing, the number of people tested that are testing positive, because that's one metric you have to follow. I can't find that up to date right now. This is up to date here, and you can see the trend. At one time, we were down here at 1.2, which was excellent, and then we had an increase, and now we're on a downhill slide. I'm always optimistic, but it's at 8.4. The daily 7-day moving average, and then I don't know that it would do any good to update anything else because it wasn't up. Last Friday was the last time we had this number of
Yeah.
active cases.
Yeah.
So, question?
Question here, Kelly. Is that metric on the Panhandle Health side, what was that figure that we need? Is it like 4 or something like that?
Yeah, I would say
Thereabouts?
about 3.
3?
Right. So I like that it's
Based on
going
a
down.
7-day moving average.
7-day sliding average.
Okay.
So the lower we can get there, the lower that average is gonna go down.
Yeah.
And I,
Okay.
you know,
You mean the number to where we're going?
No, there's 3 different benchmarks.
three different benchmarks. One is hospitalization capacity, and
Yeah.
I believe we've been good in
Fine
that
there.
one category.
Yeah.
And then the other is the percent positivity
Positive
per
per
testing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess, without breaking it down into zip codes,
Yeah.
you're taking the whole county.
Impossible to
So
do.
you could include Priest Lake into that, for our county, and I don't know how accurate it would be. So,
Yeah.
that needs to be below 5%.
Yep.
And last I checked, it was, I can't remember, it got back up to about 11 or 12. At one time, we were down below 5%, and then it went back up. I think it's still on the downward trend,
Okay.
but again, of the 3 metrics, and this is the 3rd metric here, Panhandle Health still has Bonner County in yellow.
Yeah.
If you do check much of what's happening throughout the state, there is a resurgence in cases. The Boise area, Ada County just went to red. We're not in that situation, so I just wanted to
Okay.
keep you updated on
Thank
this. And wanted to share again with you what we felt would be more meaningful is for us to track our own cases here
Yeah.
with our school nursing staff.
So are tests more widely available in Bonner County?
Well, we're still waiting some information that Governor Little said that there would be increased testing for teachers and staff and other occupations. And those are supposed to be the rapid tests that you can get the
Right.
results back in 15
Yeah,
minutes.
I read where he said the state had acquired 500,000 of these rapid test kits that were going to be distributed to school districts around the state.
Yeah, as I stated though, we're not gonna be a testing center.
Yeah.
That will go, those tests will go to Panhandle Health. Panhandle Health is still working on what the process will be for us if we needed to send a staff member to get tested, rapid testing. So, we're not gonna get the test as a school district, and our nursing staff is not gonna become a test.
So are tests available through Bonner, through Panhandle Health now?
Bonner General Health,
But you still have to have a doctor's prescription
right.
in order to get a
Well,
test.
and
at
that's
Bonner
where
General?
they have not released the process on these new rapid tests that are coming from Governor Little, to know what that is gonna entail, of whether or not we could send a staff
Yeah,
member over.
that'd be great if we could just refer someone for a test without
Right.
a doctor's
Yeah.
prescription.
Not gonna happen.
But,
Probably not.
yeah. Any other questions on this? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Data map.
Oh, yes, the data matrix,
Right.
and
So.
teacher and learning director and superintendent, take it away.
Yeah, so Andrew and I are gonna share this data, and I know you've asked us, okay, what is the, learning gap that we're seeing, what assessments we've done, this fall to try to see where students are, and what do we have that to compare it to? So we wanna kind of share that with you, and so I'm gonna, turn this over to Andra to get started.
Sure. Thank you for having me. We'll walk you through 3 assessments that we take in the fall with 2, and then our scorecard that we always present to every fall. And then happy to field questions. I get to start with the Idaho Reading Indicator, or you often hear about the IRI. This is our literacy assessment. It's state required, and we take it in kindergarten through 3rd grade. We wanted to show you this fall how our students entered after this potential gap, distance learning, summer. So we could look at where they entered and compare that to where we entered last fall after a typical school year. So starting on the right, you'll see September 2019. 2 things to point out. We entered with an average across K-3. You want to be tier 1 or a level 1 on this assessment, would mean you were a proficient reader. So last fall, we graded our students at just about 55% proficient. You might recall that we were just under 80% in the previous school year. So this is a pretty common fall. We closed that gap really well. It's always our goal to exceed 80%. But last fall, we came in at about 55%. So just this September, assessment just closed. We are starting the school year at a 48, almost 49%. So definitely right there, you see a little dip in how we are greeting our students coming in September as proficient readers. The other piece that might be interesting to you though, that Superintendent Albertson alluded to, is our drop in enrollment. So the other piece this chart shows you is last fall, what was our kindergarten cohort compared to how many kindergartners we have this fall, or overall our total across kindergarten through third grade. We definitely have a lower student count. So I did want to highlight just our overall district average there and how we are starting a little lower, but we are ready for the task of closing that gap. Even in the yellow plan, we're thrilled to have our elementary reading curriculum along with those support materials you've heard us talk about before called EQUI to really work on phonics and foundational skills. And we know we can do this, but that will show you last fall and this fall on our first measure.
Andrew, before we move on,
Yes.
I was wondering if the board would want individual questions. So we're going to talk about the IRI, and we're going to talk about the math test, and then we'll talk about the metrics that we have shared with you every year. So do we want to entertain questions directly on the IRI before we move through the other
Maybe.
tests?
Sure.
Maybe? Okay.
IRI. So is this year's IRI test comparable to last year's IRI test?
They were both the computer-based updated state assessment, so yes,
but-
exactly the same.
The year before that, there was a big change. The legislature stipulated a completely different model for the IRI.
Correct. We in LPOSD moved from a paper administration listening to students read and marking miscues to the computer-based. And now all school districts in the state are required to use the IRI through iStation. So these are absolutely apples to
So
apples.
these are apples to apples.
Yes.
But
Great question.
going back a couple of years, I know in that transition year that it was
We had a whole new
Apples to
baseline,
oranges,
and you are
yes.
right, because computer-based skills and even moving a mouse for some of those kindergartners is a difficult skill.
Yeah.
So we do administer in small groups, especially at K1, so an adult can be right there with those students, making sure it isn't a technology issue. Great question. Anything else we can address on IRI?
I would jump in here with my your statistics question on the previous question. I think our insight here is big enough that we could draw some references here. You know, and this is just a hypothesis here, Gary, that families that are capable or are in a position to keep their kids home and teach them, you know, are missing, are the numbers that we're missing here. So, you know, is this 5% a gap because of distant learning, or is it 5% because we have a different group of
Test.
Yeah,
so
the 10%
there's a
not
lot,
there.
I bring that up only is that there's a lot of factors to think about when we're looking at this. And I also want to reiterate that what I've talked about in previous board meetings is I am very, very proud of our teachers. There's nobody better to do the job than they are to close this gap, but we're also not going to hit the panic button and try to close the gap too quick, because I think there's things to consider, such as just the social emotional learning, getting kids back into the routines of schools, and not trying to close that gap too quickly, but do it in a very, let's say, calculated manner,
Yeah.
you know, and some of the strategies we would use for that.
The other piece to share is this is state required in September and in May. You may recall that LPOSD, we choose to administer a January assessment, so we'll be thrilled to report back to you how our mid-year progress is looking. And we also feel like that gives students another opportunity to practice their computer-based skills before the May state window.
So
Yeah.
this student base, was this only the in-school student base? Did we capture, you know, either one of our homeschool programs in the student base?
It is not required of homeschool academy students. It is asked that we do our best attempt to administer to our IDLA students, of whom Megan spoke about, because they are attached to LPOSD, so she did an incredible job of reaching out to those families and either proctoring via computer, meeting them at the library if they felt comfortable, firing up the assessment for a parent to watch. So they are in the data to the degree possible, certainly not at 100%, but we did a lot of outreach to include our IDLA enrolled elementary students.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the next is just a pie chart showing you that exact same data, but again, showing you want to be tier 1 or in the green, yellow would be strategic readers, and then red would be our tier 3. So last fall, slightly bigger piece of the pie versus this fall in green. But again, the cohort size is different.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to MAP. We've shared this with you before. This is a growth measure. It's a local assessment that we choose to participate in because we like to track growth along with just proficiency. This is that measure that will track growth over time. We give it in the fall and the winter because spring is a pretty heavy state testing season. The ISAT is required, the IRA comes back around. Our staff love this tool to differentiate their instruction. It will pinpoint an actual student and their areas of strength, their areas of need. We'll also give you class-based data. So I can look across mathematics for my 5th grade classroom and say measurement and data was quite strong. For this new group of learners, I need to work on operations or algebraic sense. So our staff are very bought into this assessment. They like to set goals and track growth over time. Because we don't give it in the spring, it can be a trickier metric to follow for an entire school year. So we, every fall, look at fall to fall. So those students would have had an entire school year plus a summer, and then we look at where they came in that next fall. So again, on the right, you'll see a non-distance learning or a non-COVID impacted year. You're looking first at English language arts, so ELA, English language arts. This would have been 18-19. We had no interruptions to instruction. So in 18-19, it's showing you bar graphs by grade level. So 4th grade, these students had an entire school year as 3rd graders plus summer, and they came in the fall as 4th graders. The computer assessment will project the points of growth we should see for that aggregate of students, and then tell us if our district average met it or not. So here in a non-COVID year for English language arts, you can see the observed growth beat the projection at almost every grade level. So just one where we didn't quite meet the expected growth. What Superintendent Albertson and I found quite interesting is here's last fall, September of 19, to this September of 20. So this would include our distance learning in March or our potential COVID gap and an entire summer. You can see again in English language arts, observed is in the green, projected is in the yellow. We beat it at every grade level. So we met our expected growth even with distance learning and the summer. There are many variables that are hard to pinpoint as to why, but we would suspect that our families continued reading and working on those literacy skills while at home. The picture looks a little different in mathematics. And when you follow a lot of what's been put out at the state level and even nationally, the projections were that students would lose more in mathematics than they would in English language arts. Yeah. Because often we're still covering core content, as Ms. Rossman knows, March through June, we're still getting into the meat of that grade level. And our students left us in March. We did our absolute best to provide that learning via distance learning, but I know even as a mom of my 5th grader, it was easier for me to support her literacy, read books and talk about them than pinpoint exactly what to work on in her mathematics. There could be many variables, but we absolutely saw a dip in mathematics that we did not see in English language arts. So looking at those math comparisons, again on the right you'll see your previous school year, no interruptions to instruction. Observed was in the bluish purple, and the projection being the maroon. So we did not meet that in 2 grade levels there. This last year, we did not meet our projected growth in any grade level in mathematics. So that's just showing you again this fall. Indeed, we are starting with a perceived gap in mathematics.
So I guess I would say by going out of school in March like we did, we definitely see a gap in mathematics, not so much in English language arts would be the generalization.
And this is one measure, it's one point in time. Two, we'll give it again in the winter. Again, we'll be thrilled to show you that growth for our students this school year from September till we take it again in January. But this would show that we see that gap.
So then, this chart should look familiar to you. This is what I shared and what's been shared with you multiple years. What's so hard is we did not get the spring data. So, to be honest with you, this isn't going to hold, this one slide here isn't going to hold much meaning as the other two slides. We feel that the IRI and our MAP tests right now have much more meaning for us to be looking at student achievement and guide our instruction than these projections here. Because really when we take the third grade
Yeah, you have to go forward
back,
2 years.
we've got to go forward 2 years. And they were on track. They went from, this cohort went 50% proficient to 53, and now they're in 5th grade. So we're setting some goals, but we really don't have the data to set that goal. Our goal is that we're going to project and be optimistic that there wasn't a slide there and that we can maintain where they were, but we don't have anything to really base that off other than the MAP test and the IRI until we get further into that. Do you want to?
So they would be 6th graders. They were
Sixth
3rd
graders.
graders, then
Correct.
4th, we skipped their 5th year, and now, okay.
Correct, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's.
Yes. So really that kind of comes down to where our target performance is for the spring of 2021 is again trying to extrapolate
Yeah.
the cohort 2 years back, not just moving forward. So that interruption, we'll know more and see where we are and what ground we make up during the school year. So, Andrew, is there anything else you want to add on this?
Remind me of the, I got what red is. Remind me,
Oh, we just color coded the last time
Oh,
we
I
had 2
see.
years back to back. We wanted to show you those cohorts,
The cohort
how they move
slide,
forward.
yeah.
So
Okay.
exactly as you pointed out, these 3rd graders were these 4th graders, and that
Yeah.
data, we just highlighted diagonally.
so the
and-
green and the yellow is just to help your eye follow the cohort.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
I got
generally
you.
green and yellow moved up. We highlighted in red if the cohort
they
slipped
had
backwards. So from
that,
6th to 7th grade, we did see a dip in
So
this
if there
data.
was a slide backwards, we put it in red for us to be just looking at
So when
strategies,
we-
looking for
yeah.
reasons, what might be happening.
When we look at this in spring of 21, we'll have a different.
We'll have a new baseline.
Yep.
And then, one of the other metrics that we have, again, is high school graduation rate, and please note that this is for the district. So this would include Sandpoint High School, Clark Fork High School, and our alternative high school. And so, with the appeals process and everything, the 2020 graduation rate is not out yet. So we will add this and bring this to your attention once somewhere in December,
When all
January,
the
where
numbers.
that comes out. So,
Question.
Yes.
Why, I note here that both in the targets and in the performance, the expectations are declining, as we go through the grade levels. I mean, we're starting off kindergarteners at 85% proficiency, and then we're declining, until gradually, consistently declining until we get to 10th grade at 33% proficiency.
Important point, this
You're
is
talking about state average.
the
But
IRI.
the top part, this appears the IRI.
Yeah.
This column here.
And then this is in literacy, and again, you can see us, we did leave the state average. So you can see LPOSD is still outperforming the state average in literacy at every grade level. So we're setting our goals, of course, this year based on no data to project from, but typically we would want to see those cohorts moving forward. And you can see highlighted all but 2 did so, and we still exceed the state average. Mathematics, absolutely, we need to continue working on professional development. We've done a thorough audit of our curriculum maps. That is another content area to focus on. But you can see the state averages across Idaho significantly lower in mathematics than in English language arts.
And I do want to let you know that there is work being done statewide. I'm on a, it's not really a committee, but it's called MTN. It's Mathematics Transition Network. And what it's trying to do is link secondary mathematics to post-secondary mathematics, and that would be whether the student is going into a trade school or whether they're going to a four-year university. But it is working on that transition. So some interesting things are coming out of that. So there is some work being done statewide. So more to come.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
My pleasure.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Tom. The next items we have are the ISBA resolutions. You all have a copy of the 15 resolutions before you. And I think we can just go through them briefly, see if there's any discussion. A few of them may be, but others not so much.
The other point to find out tonight is, or maybe next meeting, is who plans to attend it and who does not plan to virtually attend it, because then you would need their vote.
We need to vote. So tonight, this is just to discuss, and then we'll make our vote known before at the next meeting. Okay, why don't we just go around? I hate to read all these things. I'll start with the first one, allowing for decisions regarding student hearing and executive session. And you have the background information, which you probably, hopefully you've read already.
And they went through these when we had the region meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
we went through them all at the reason meeting. Is there any discussion, any questions on that one? Okay, why don't we go to the next, Geraldine, can you handle that one, number 2?
Amend Idaho code requiring that candidates on an interim certificate cannot be placed on a renewable contract until respective program requirements are met. And this is a little bit having to do with it's the teacher certifications for interim certificates. So I didn't have any questions with it.
And this was recommended approval by the
It is, it's one of the ones they said do pass, but.
Okay, George?
Number 3 is the resolution to amend Idaho Code 33205, denial of school attendance. And they recommended do pass on this also.
Any questions?
This one
It says no recommendation.
Right. But
Yeah, no recommendation.
Yeah, they didn't have
Basically,
anything.
Which is, I think they didn't want to get into muddy waters.
They did, it was very
Yeah. That,
political.
But isn't it, the gist of it is, it's leaving it up to school districts individually to impose
Set their,
expulsion or not, based on a case-by-case basis, which to me makes sense. I mean,
well, which is how we're already doing it.
Yeah, right.
We've already,
right.
this looks real familiar.
Yeah.
I think the reason they have no recommendations because really, what is this resolution even about?
Well, I think,
Because it's, what's happening is what they're already.
but I think, aren't they saying that anybody that, the way I interpret this is, say somebody brings their hunting rifle to school, forgets
Yeah.
about it. They aren't they're not automatically going to be expelled. But, which is the gist of what we,
But the state code says that they are to be expelled,
Expelled.
but the school board has,
discretion.
There's discretion.
has the
I think
ability
they're
to
just wanting to
change
put
that, so,
in the code, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
you've got the,
it's,
Okay. Ford, you're in,
Resolution number 4, amending Idaho Schools state statute to allow flexibility for school preparedness programs.
It's cited, it's the age statute.
Yeah, age statute.
Right.
Which makes, I mean, if you've got somebody who is enrolled in the programs, you should get the funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be age discriminatory to qualify.
Number 5 is opposition to diverting public dollars to private or parochial schools, including vouchers, the granting of tax credits for scholarship donors, amending Article 9.
You got the long.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
The Blaine amendment. you
Can we just
say-
call it Blaine
It's the
amendment?
Blaine.
Blaine
They told me
amendment.
that before.
Okay.
That seemed pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, there's just not enough
We've
money
seen
in
this
it.
We're
before.
gonna have money to be diverted to
Yeah.
parochial schools.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6 is reduce supermajority for facility bonds. And of
Makes
course,
sense.
that would make it easier to get bonds for your facilities.
Didn't
We've
this
seen
one
this
come up
before.
last year? In legislative
Yes.
Not
session?
every year.
Every
Well,
year?
Many of these come up and they never get passed.
It's because it doesn't pass at the state level, even though ISBA, we all vote,
Recommend.
and we recommend it get passed.
Right.
It doesn't
Well,
meet the,
what we vote on is whether the
should present it.
ISBS is gonna present it to
Yes.
the legislature, but if the legislature doesn't act on it, we're gonna see it again next year.
Exactly. So that's agreed.
Okay, number 7, Geraldine, the social studies
Wait,
content.
What, are you skipping one, Carrie?
No?
No,
No?
he did 6.
No.
7 comes after 6.
Oh, I thought he was having you do the supermajority,
Oh.
but he did it. Idaho Social Studies Content Standards. They have a do not pass on this one. It,
I think this one,
He was a cherry picking the data that they put in there for social studies.
yeah, I think the emphasis, what this guy put it on, he has written a letter, I don't know if everybody got it, but
yeah,
he's contending that the courses that they have in world history don't cover enough of Western civilization.
Right.
And he thinks that should be the basis, and more of that should be in our social studies. That's the thing.
Yeah, you're right, I don't know how I voted on that yet, though.
Okay, I kind of agree with it in theory, and I'm not been into the content that much, maybe, but it seems to me that Western civilization really gets slighted as far as the world history goes. Emphasis is on other things rather than Western civilization. And there's been a trend that way. So, I don't
I
know.
thought it was because at a different year you picked up your American civilization
Yeah. correct.
content, and then you'd move into a different year where it was world
Well,
history.
okay.
Anyway,
Anyway, we'll just kind of see how that.
read more on that one.
I would be very surprised if it passes, but, okay, number 8,
Administrative leave with pay.
It's a bulky one.
That's a bulky one.
I know.
sounds like a pretty good deal of me if I was in for it.
Depends on how the hearing goes.
And several of these, when we read this, it really doesn't tell you the financial impact. And when it goes before the legislature, that's the number one concern, is how much it's going to cost.
How much will it cost?
So I think this will be a cost thing. Okay,
It
number,
could be, yeah.
it could be. Okay, number 9. You're,
My turn here?
Yeah.
ISBA resolution number 9, personnel funding, use it or lose it.
let me see what that is.
Has this affected our district, Tom, do you know? These type of? No?
I don't have questions on that.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay,
Number 10,
Number
full
10.
funding of all-day kindergarten. We're all for it, I think.
Yes,
we're, not only are we for it, we're doing it.
But yeah, exactly.
right,
We're back, bringing that one back again and again and again.
I know.
And this is
That's a
another one,
rerun.
Number 11, reclamation of career ladder placement for instructional and pupil service staff.
I did not pass at the ISBA convention last year.
Yeah, again, this is to continue something that should have been in place already.
Right.
Okay, number 12.
12 is salary-based apportionment for classified employees, and we've seen this one before. So it's recommended do pass again. I don't know if you have any new questions about it, but
No.
I've got to think all these that have a big fat price tag are going to be really, really impossible.
they're good, they're worthy, and then they
Yeah.
don't make it at the state level because
Yeah.
it's too expensive, so.
Budget cut.
But
That's
we'll
why we see 'em
probably,
over and over again.
we'll probably pass it at ISBA again,
I'm sure.
so,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, Carly, 13. This is hold back. It's basically telling the government, give us the money we had before they held it back because of the virus.
Good luck.
So it's an unhold back.
Yeah, it's, okay, we'll just do the 14.
Okay.
This has to be a charter school.
Resolution number 14, establishing expectations for the Idaho Public Charter School Commission and non-elected charter school authorities. Authorizing that.
Authorizers,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, we've seen this one before too.
Is this because
Not
they
in
went
this
away
exact
from
format.
elected authorizers, now they're trying to reel that
Is-
back?
Is the charter school in our district one of the few in the state that's actually chartered by the public school district? Or
Yes.
are most of them
Now chartered by the Charter School Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
We continue to have that relationship and authorize course for charter.
Right.
Okay, 15, that's the last one, having impact fees for schools. And Crowley and I were talking about this a little bit, and to me, it means impact fees. Most states where I've lived have had impact fees, where
Yeah,
developers pay a certain amount of money, develop, and it goes to schools,
Right.
just like impact fees for roads and other. To me, that's what it means, and that's what it is.
And that's what this means, but my question is, when they change our designation and recognize public schools as public facilities, does that open the door to the entire public, like all other public facilities? So anybody can walk into a school anytime?
no, No.
It should not, but will it?
no,
If you
it's
designate it
adding
as a
public
pub-
school facilities to the definition, not
But-
meaning making it the
No.
definition.
The definition to recognize public schools as public facilities.
Yes, meaning they are a subcategory of the
I know
public.
that's not what they're wanting here.
Yeah, but read it right here. It's adding it to the definition would allow them to be considered. It doesn't mean, it means we are a subcategory under this public facility,
that's-
meaning the tax
it would-
code would
It would
apply
have
to us as
Right,
well.
right.
Right.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I'm just concerned about that
Okay,
being a problem in the future.
well, we can
I-
clarify that, but I think basically,
Yeah.
from what I read, it sounds like a good idea. It would help
Oh.
our schools.
Yeah.
It should be done
Especially in this
anyway.
area. Okay,
Okay, so we'll kind of tabulate yes or no at the next meeting, so we'll have.
yeah.
And then,
We probably should anyway, just in case we intend to be on and you have a
yeah.
issue with your electronics and can't. Anyway,
Okay, we'll move on to action items, and the only action item we have is.
No, sorry,
I'm
Chair
sorry.
Kelly, we're back at
Oh,
item
first
B.
reading, I am so sorry.
Fine.
Oh,
cut off Kelly.
And this is interesting too, really
Okay.
interesting.
So in
in your board packet, you saw, I'm bringing to first reading Board Policy 3525, immunization requirements. I want to emphasize that the only change in here is requiring the immunization requirement of meningococcal, sorry, dose for incoming 12th grade students. So Idaho law changed 2 sessions ago and are requiring this dose for incoming 12th grade students for this current school year. The nursing department is fantastic and are working on getting our 12th graders up to date and potentially working with Panhandle Health and our community medical providers to get them up to date. I don't know if Superintendent Albertson would like to share kind of where we are at, any of that data, but.
Yeah, I don't have an update on that at this
Okay.
time, but trying to make it as convenient as possible for students and the families that
So this will
need
take
to
effect,
get this.
once we pass it?
Um,
Or is there?
Well, it's already in effect in the state, we're just updating our code to be
Right.
compliant.
Yeah.
Correct.
So our students are currently bound by the state code of the requirements, just
Correct.
not reflected in our.
Correct.
It's not
Correct,
reflected in
we are
our-
updating the policy, yeah.
And so I did, because there's other, the struck out portion of the summary of immunization requirements in that first paragraph on the first page, those students,
They've tapped out of the system already.
they're
Yeah.
old enough, they're not in our system anymore, so we went ahead and
Yeah.
struck that. And
Perfect.
then that first highlighted section, I did put it highlighted so it's easier to see for you, talks about that new requirement.
Mhm.
And then on page 2 of 3, this paragraph under non-compliance was there, but for readability for parents, I did add that one word.
Okay,
And then there's really no updates at all to any legal references or Idaho code. So that's the update in front of you, and I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I
think we're good.
do have a sidebar on this. My last year on active duty in the Army, I provided logistical support for the testing of the meningococcal vaccine. So that shows how long it takes to get them approved.
So that was back at
Yeah.
your.
Yeah, was that?
back in his youth.
Were you in the north or the south?
World War
It's-
I.
Which color code?
It's been a while, since I retired, and that was my last year. I provided
That's pretty good.
logistical support for testing the meningococcal vaccine.
Good for you.
So now you see it come full circle.
Now, to see it, it's finally been approved and it's out there and required now, so.
I have a related question. We devoted a whole meeting last year to immunizations, and Geraldine, I thought, had an excellent idea, I think. When students register for school, they check, I'm immunized, I'm not immunized, or I'm immunized, but, I'm not immunized, but, I authorize the school district to arrange for my immunizations. Are we doing that?
We are not doing that. If Superintendent Albertson would like to share also, I think in the heat of COVID, we didn't work with Panhandle Health District or Connexu Health Services to arrange something like that as an option for parents this year.
It was that meeting where Dr. Dunn came and he presented to us about
Correct.
immunities and things like that.
And for parents that are wanting that convenience and wanting that option for immunization, Gary, that's something that this meningitis vaccine for the seniors could lead into a partnership with Panhandle Health being able to provide those type of clinics. A lot of families that choose get their immunization updates at, say, sports registration, physicals, especially the ones that are $10 or free, and that didn't happen this year.
Oh, true.
So again, there's a little bit of COVID, there's gonna be a group of students that are gonna be behind that.
Yeah.
But it's our intention, to
Correct.
help families arrange immunizations for
We can
non-students.
make it, if it's a, not knowing where to go, or a financial, or a convenience, the more that we can make it convenient, then the better it is for them.
We looked at that last year, and there are resources available to help with organizations.
But also in that same meeting, Jeff was here and Penrose, and we were talking about the free immunizations they did that they got donated, and he said it was a flip of the coin whether or not people were taking advantage. So even if we had a immunization
It wouldn't be
facility,
100%
people aren't gonna
solution.
We're gonna follow
Yeah.
Idaho code.
Right, so it's not our job
We
either.
can't force them to do it, but
Right.
it was also, presented the fact that a lot of students are not immunized because their families are just lazy. They don't manage to get them to the doctor.
Great.
I don't know if lazy.
Okay, we're gonna move on to action items now.
I would make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We move to second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion at all?
No.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. And now we're down to announcements, so Superintendent, please give us an announcement.
Just, it seems like it's a strange time in the school district with COVID. It's not as many things going on, but I do want to say that I'm very pleased on some of the articles that are coming out of the Daily Bee, just on some positive things that are going on. The Community Land Trust did partner with the school district
Yeah, that
on
was a
some
good one.
outdoor classrooms and some tents that have gone up at a couple of our elementary schools. So I'll get a report on that when we know more about what their use is going to be like. I know that Sandpoint High School did a suicide prevention training for their staff, and that was a virtual training that came from Boise. And then another article basically talking about trusted adults, and I think in this time of, we don't know the anxiety of 6 months out, and so I think we don't want to forget about those type of things, and I think still building those close relationships, and I see it again in most of the schools. In this strange way, I've heard from many elementary teachers, though it's a very taxing day from 8 to 1, being with those kids the whole time, having lunch in the room and everything. I do feel that community of learners and the bonding there is a byproduct of a positive, that close cohort.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are just some of the things that are going on in the district right now. On the activity side of things, I know girls and boys soccer at Sandpoint High School will be playing this Thursday. Clark Fork's volleyball team is doing well. I think they did cancel their game tonight because the opponent, the team, had a student on their volleyball team that had been tested for COVID, did not have the results back in time, and this decision not to jeopardize the season.
Yeah.
Those are just some different type of decisions that have to be made on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Thank you. Casey, you got anything for us?
Sure, absolutely. So to piggyback a little bit on what Tom said, we had Source of Strength, which is a mental health, really a group that works with students and creates or just trains peer leaders of different things. And so it's been a very powerful group, and they were meeting today with Jessica Lippy, our counselor, who's then going to meet with teachers and then going to meet with students. And so that's great to see because it's a very powerful program that they do and really talks about mental health and mental health awareness. And so that's fantastic. And I have to give a shout out to all our teachers, honestly, at the middle school. They've been incredible. The amount of positivity and kind of we can do it kind of attitude, and we are doing what we call PLC audits right now, where myself and the assistant principal sit in on their basic curriculum meeting, and we sit and ask them a lot of questions for accountability wise. But the great thing is that they're just so positive and so many things are happening that it's just very much very much makes you realize, okay, even despite COVID and everything else, they're pushing it forward, and their intention is for the students to have the absolute top education they can have. And so it's excellent to see.
Great. Well, the homeschool academy, Lily, did you
Oh,
have?
boy, I could talk for an hour nonstop, but definitely I'm working harder than I've worked in my life. My staff is working harder than they are. I can honestly say we might be the only school in the nation that is mask-free. Our staff is wearing coverings during the day when they're in close proximity of the students. We're doing a lot of classes outside. Starting to get my numbers back now that we have that little offset to start the year. But I'm really proud of what's going on and the cohorts that I've designed, and you know, just the management of that is huge. It's huge like never before, but it's working. And I really love what we're doing and providing a great service to our community. Like, I could talk on, but I'm really happy with what's going on, but it's a lot of work to make it work well.
So are you able to do any out-of-school activities?
I'm organizing the ski and ride program. I've already got 70 kids signed up for that for winter, and working closely with Schweitzer on what the cohorts are gonna look like once we're up there. So that's still being ironed out with Schweitzer. We're doing a lot of outdoor activities. Like this Friday, I'm putting on an arts and science festival, and I've already got 40 kids signed up for that, and 5 parent chaperones and 3 teachers. So that's gonna be our first big outside activity. But we're doing a lot of our classes outside, and I called Kinixu Land Trust because I'm one of their benefactors, and I said, hey, what about my school? Can we get one of those tents? So I'm on the list. You know, they're just waiting for some grants to come in, so I'm pretty positive we'll get a tent at our school and really provide just a more area that's protected to be outside more often. You know, I know winter's on its way, but we've got a winter science course that's going to be taught during the winter. We've got a winter survival course that's going to be taught during the winter. So there's a lot of stuff that'll still keep us outside all year. But then even in the classrooms are smaller. My numbers are down on purpose. I've got a lot of people that would like to get into school, but right now I'm just keeping it where it's at, staying tight. People that have learned the routine, practicing the routine with me. And, you know, Miss Tilford's daughter attends my school on Mondays. So it's working. And is she happy? Is she coming home happy? Yeah. The kids are getting that community, the cohorts are eating together within their age group cohort. So it's a lot of work to make it work and keep everybody healthy. A lot of hand washing, a lot of torn cuticles. But yeah, exciting times right now, but challenging.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms.
Any
Tilford?
last words?
Oh, I just had a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
I have questions about the contact tracing with the COVID stuff. Is that still happening?
Well, this is our meeting, this is just comments. That's all we have. We can't get discussion and stuff like that. But
After the meeting, I can.
if you have a comment to make,
Oh, okay. I do actually have a comment to make.
Okay.
I don't think it's good for kids to wear masks. I don't think it's good for them to see teachers in masks. I think facial expression is a huge part of learning and part of being a human being. And I think it gives the wrong impression that in a school district where there has been less than 0.5% of cases since the beginning of the year, they're told to do things that don't make any sense. So they're being told to uncritically and irrationally be
Okay,
obedient to rules that
just wrap it up.
are
This is
given
really
by an authority that I'm not sure
announcement type
deserves the
thing.
trust that it has
Yeah,
demanded.
the comment period is really the beginning of the program.
I know, I apologize, I walked in right as it was starting and I didn't have time to sign up, but this is a real concern for, I know, a lot of parents,
I
and
know.
I hope to see it end. And I'm wondering about the contact tracing for the normal flu, and if that's not gonna happen, why?
Okay, our business is concluded. We're adjourned.